Anyway, today we're going to be focusing on Kali Linux and also some tools to help automate what we've been doing in the previous weeks. The first couple of weeks were designed to get you to understand how, and now we're going to show you how to do it, but faster. A quick question, just so that I can get my hands on how many people need help with Linux. Anyone use Arch? Of course, there's a couple. Anyone here not use Linux before? Just put up your hand just so that I have a show. All right, awesome. Couple of people, awesome. I figured that'd be the case. So we'll go through basics of Linux really quickly to breeze through that, just so that people aren't like, what? And then we'll move on to a couple of actual specific Kali Linux things. So a quick disclaimer, and this applies to every session, but especially this one in particular. Don't use these tools on websites. You're not allowed to. Don't use it on networks. You're not allowed to. Don't use it on organizations, right? We don't condone any illegal activity. Everything you're doing today will be on things you're allowed to use these tools on. Please don't try and hack Monash. That will get you expelled. Don't do that. So quickly, a bit of an introduction to Kali Linux. If you haven't already, the username and password is Kali, so please make sure you're logged in. If you don't have access to Kali, I think that's all been resolved, but if you don't, we'll get to that in a bit. Quick bit of introduction to the UI, just so that everybody's on somewhat of the same page. In the top left, you'll find all the programs sorted by categories. There's a lot of them. We're not going to go through them all today because that would take forever. My PowerPoint keeps crashing. There we go. You can open the terminal by clicking that button or by clicking the Windows or Home key and then clicking and searching for terminal. That's where we're going to be mostly working today. You can also find a file editor in the top. You can use Vim or Nano or any other type as well if you want, but I'm not going to explain how to use those. So if you don't know, just use the editor. I'm going to breeze through all these. For the majority of people, this should be very familiar, but in case you haven't used Linux ever, if you're in the terminal, assuming everything is okay, if you're in the terminal, this will show you, this thing in the top will show you what your current directory is. You can then view your current directory by using the ls or list command, which will show you everything that's in your directory. If you want to change folders or change directories, you use the cd command for change directory, right? You can see we're now in desktop. If you want to see your current directory, you use pwd, which doesn't stand for password, as I consistently confuse it for. It stands for print working directory. I can see a lot of like, yeah, I know this face. I'm sorry. We're moving through it quickly. If you want to go back a directory, you can do cd ... which basically means go back. If you want to print a file to the terminal, you can use cat, which is for concatenate, and you can put multiple files there and it'll put it all together. Basically, there's a lot of commands. Anyone in my FIT 2093 class would recognize this. I kind of shamelessly stole it. Apologies. There's a whole bunch of commands. And if in doubt, use Google. It'll be your best friend to figure out if a command exists, which it probably does. One other really important thing for today is this thing called flags. Basically, commands have flags which allow you to specify how the program or command will run. They usually specified using either 1 dash or 2 dashes. For example, and I'm not entirely sure if everybody can see this, so I do apologize, but if you put the -L flag on list, it'll give you a whole bunch of extended information about the current directory you're in. What each of these things means is there if you're interested, but I'm skipping through all this stuff. Now, if in doubt, and if you don't know how to use a command, there's a command for that. You can use man or for manual, and then the command, it'll give you a whole bunch of instructions, something like this, which looks a bit scary, but if you read it, you'll be able to identify, you'll be able to identify the main commands that you need. Now, I just breezed through like what is done in like 30 minutes to an hour in like 10 seconds. So I apologize if you're like, now I'm even more confused. Don't worry, you'll get the hang of it. Today, the main tools that we're going to be looking at are John the Ripper, Burpsuite, and SQLMap. Mostly John the Ripper because all the other challenges, all the other things are quite hard to make challenges for. So, John the Ripper is a password brute forcing tool. It basically allows you to either quite literally fully brute force a password, or it allows you to use word lists. I'm going to make a note that for all the challenges today, unless it specifies otherwise, we're going to be using the RockU password list. Now, if you've installed Kali, it should come installed with this password list, and you can find it, and everyone should probably do this because you're probably going to need to extract it as well. I would recommend going to, and you do this by doing CD and then this directory, to user share word lists, and then there might be a compressed version of the file. So if you haven't done this, like please do this, go CD and then go to that directory. And then if you do ls in the directory, it'll probably say that it's compressed. If the file is compressed, please run gzip-d and then the file name, and that will decompress it for you. I'm pretty sure that's the command. If it gives you errors, then I apologize. So I'll give everybody a second to do that. I'm just going to walk around and make sure that you've done it, because you won't be able to do any of these challenges if you don't do this step first. There you go. Okay, a couple of extra instructions that I forgot about when I wrote this. You're going to need a first CD to user share word lists. That'll get you into the directory. You'll then need to type sudo gzip because it's in the user folder and you have to use effectively administrator. So you then need to type sudo gzip -d rocku.txt, not .tar, and then it will work. So I may just quickly update that. All right, we may just push on. We're going to spend a bit of time today working on the actual challenges. So even if you're still installing, you'll be fine. You'll get it, or even better, I'll be explaining things whilst it's installing for you. So the easiest way to probably do these is to actually show everybody, because otherwise it's going to be quite difficult. So what I'm going to try and do, and may break my computer in the process. Nope, there we go. All right, so let's say that we had a random hashed password. And in order to do this, actually, I will go here. Somebody give me a hashing algorithm. Anyone? I heard SHA-256, I think. Awesome. All right. Let's say that we go to SHA-256 and we encode a very poor password. Let's say we do password, right? What we have is a hashing function, SHA-256, which is giving us a hash that looks like this. And I will zoom in a tiny bit. Let's say that we then go and create a file. Let's say here, and we say John demo. And if you've never used Vim before, don't stress. Basically, I'm creating a file called John demo. Now, I can tell you for a fact that the word password is in RockU because, believe it or not, people use the word password as their password. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the John the Ripper suite of tools, which I didn't check how to make this zoom in more. So if somebody knows, there we go. Apologies, this was the one thing I knew I would forget to do. Make it look bigger. Great, that's probably too big, but oh well. So if we have a look at the man page, which I'm going to strongly encourage because, hint, hint, I'm not giving you the solution to all of these, so you will need to look at the man page to understand how everything works. Basically, there's a whole lot of instructions, which I'll let you all read in your own time. But the main thing that I want everyone to look at is two things. Firstly, and it's right at the bottom, the word list flag. The word list flag allows you to specify the word list to search. Now, as I've said, we're going to be using the RockU word list, so I'm not going to make you create your own today or use different ones. It's all using RockU unless it specifies otherwise. So all we need to basically do is type John, which is the command, and I'm going to hide that because that's a bit of a hint. And we're going to run John demo and specify the word list as being user share word lists rocku.txt. And if we run this, it won't work because I forgot the other flag that you need to specify, which is you need to tell it the format of the hash that's in it. Now, I told you that it was SHA-256 and you saw me encrypt it into SHA-256. What do you do if you don't know what hash it is? Any suggestions? Except for is that Maddie all the way at the back? Can't see. Except for the committee member, any suggestions? You can brute force or? Yep, or secret option C, just search it up. Like literally go to what type of hash is this website, put it in, it'll tell you the hash, right? We're not being tricky with the hashes. If you go to a website, it will do it for you. So the only other thing that we need to specify is the format string, which is basically format, and then because John wants to be unique, raw for some reason, and then the actual format. So in this case, it's SHA-256. You specify that, and you'll see that we have managed to brute force the password, which is password. Don't say your password is password. It's literally that fast. So that's basically how you can use John the Ripper. Now, there's a whole bunch of different flags which allow you to do a whole bunch of different things. But for now, to get started, that's all I'm going to give you. So if you don't know how to do something, and there's quite a few challenges, but if you don't know how to do something, look at the man page, right? That will help you. I will go through and explain a bit more as we go, but just to get everybody started, that's basically it. So you have a word list flag, you have a format flag. The only other thing that I put in the notes is, well, you will need mask. You may need rules, and single is basically if people are really bad at making their password secure. Let's say that my name is Ari. Let's say that I set my password as Ari1, which is useful for one challenge. And to be honest, it should be pretty obvious now that I've said the word single, but that basically brute forces a whole bunch of different options of things similar to a username. Again, look at the man page. It's going to explain things a lot better than I can. And also it's pretty obvious which challenge you need to use this for. So for now, if everybody wants to try and get going on those, and see how we go. If my explanation sucked and everyone's super confused, I apologize and I'll explain it better. But for now, let me know if you have any questions on this, and I will, I'll leave this page off. So next tool that we're going to go over is something completely different, and this time it actually has a graphical interface. It's called Burpsuite. Burpsuite is your go-to web exploitation tool when you're trying to deal with requests and stuff. So this one isn't on the command line, so you can all be happy about that one. So I will quickly boot into it. And this was all open beforehand, and then my computer decided on the way down it would just crash, and I have to reopen everything now, so I apologize. And I'm just going to go through this tool and the next tool, and then that'll be it in terms of the tools, and then people can just do whatever they want in their own time. So great. Hopefully everybody can see this. If not, I apologize. I'm not sure that I can make it bigger. But I will. Yeah, probably can't make it bigger. Okay, so if I could just have most people's attention, awesome. So Burpsuite is a tool that basically allows you to analyze and modify pretty much like post requests or get requests, basically any HTTP request. That's at least what we use it for. I'm sure there's a whole bunch more that you can do, but for the purposes of today and my own knowledge, we'll only go through modifying HTTP requests. So there's a whole bunch of tabs full of a whole different things. The main ones that we're going to work with are proxy and repeater. You can also use target if you want, but that's not the main thing that matters. So Burpsuite has an inbuilt browser that you can use if you go to the proxy tab. And I do apologize if you can't see. If somebody that is familiar with Burpsuite knows how to make it bigger, please let me know. But I don't know if that's possible. So we can open a browser, and here we go. So if I go back into Burpsuite, you'll notice that it says intercept is on, right? Now, let's say I randomly go to a website and I go, let's say like test. you can see that it's actually popped up with stuff, which I really hope I can, nope, still can't zoom in. This is basically the request that your computer or your browser is sending, in this case, to Google. There is pizza, so I'll like try and blitz through this. We can then forward it if we want Google to actually get our request. And if we do that, we'll see that the page is actually loaded and something else has popped up because Google likes loading like 7,000 pages in the background, but that's beside the point. If we go to another website, like let's go to bank.monsec.io, and we just forward all of this stuff, we can see that we have a GET request going to bank.monsec.io. If I then forward that, and I forward it a couple more times, and like a bajillion more times so that it actually lets us go through. There we go. So we're back on this page. Who here knows what a GET versus a POST request is? Not a lot of hands. Okay, awesome. We'll explain that quickly then. So basically, there's two main types of requests that your browser can send. The first is a GET request. Let's say that you want to just randomly load a page, right? I want to go to google.com and search for cat pictures. I don't know. What happens is your browser will say, can I please get the image or get the information for this web page? And Google will be like, yep, here it is. And it will just send it to you and you can display it. A POST request is basically saying, here's a web page. I'm going to send you information for you to deal with. So let's say that I send, let's say that I put like, test and test, and I try and log in. You can see that it's sending a POST request because anything that is like confidential or form data or stuff like that will be a POST request. And you can see that down here, the stuff that we actually entered is there. So those are our POST parameters. So that's important for the next tool, which we'll go through in a minute, but because there's pizza, I feel like everybody wants pizza over listening to me. So we'll take a quick break, grab pizza, which I think is set out, Peter. Okay, so I suspect that I need to go over the different type of requests a bit more, just so that everyone sort of like actually understand what's going on. So I'm going to do that very quickly. If I go to, let's say I want to search for, like I said, cat pictures, right? And I search for this on Google with the intercept on, and this is in the Burpsuite browser. You can see that we have a GET request, and it's basically saying, get me what happens, or get me the page when I go to this URL, and the host is Google because I'm searching on Google, and you can see that we have this equals Q, and then extra bit of information. Now in a GET request, and if you did the cross-site scripting challenges last week, you may remember that one of the challenges required you to put stuff straight into the URL. In a GET request, you put the parameters into the URL, right? This is saying we want to search for cat pictures, plus a whole bunch of other stuff that Chrome or Google automatically puts in. But the main thing here is that our search query for Q is cat pictures, right? And if I forward this on and then forward like 1,000 other things on, we get cat pictures. If I then go back to bank.monsec.io, and this will be the case for when you go to actual banking websites as well. And if I turn the intercept back on and do test and test, we can see that we get a POST request. Now notice that this time we only have the URL. We don't actually have the query. What we do have is down here, we have the POST request details. Now, that's basically how, that's the difference between a GET and a POST. As a hint, there are more than just those two. For one of the challenges, there are more than just GET and POST. But what we can also do is we can use this to start manipulating our search requests. So let's say that I wanted to rapidly be able to change the value of test and password. What I could do is I can right click and click send to repeater. So repeater is a different tab up here, which is actually over there when you're in half screen. And we can see that we have the exact same HTML request now here. And if I click send, we'll get the response, which is the actual MonBank page, and if we can also render it. And now I can very rapidly change things that I want. If I wanted to say the email is now admin, I mean, you're not actually going to be able to see a difference because that's not a username, but it will show back up. Sometimes just prettifying it will make it look better. So you can do this, and this isn't the best way of using Repeater. You won't use it for SQL injection. I'm just showing you some of the functionality that will be useful for other tools. So that's one way of basically having a very easy way to quickly change parts of your query. Now, that is useful for things outside of MonBank, and for challenges in the beginner CTF, this will be particularly helpful. But what I wanted to do was explain the difference between a GET and a POST request. And the reason for that is for our final tool, which is SQLMap. Now, when we did SQL injection, what was it? Was it last week? It was last week. Yeah. I'm sure people were like, well, I wish something could do this automatically, and it exists. So sorry for only introducing you to it after the fact, but I just wanted everybody to get a bit of an understanding of SQL injection in the first place. So SQLMap is like a very versatile tool that allows you to basically do SQL injection. Again, it's command line based. Again, there's a manual page, but a couple of very notable flags that you will need. -U is for URL. It allows you to specify the URL you want to do SQL injection on. -D is the post data that you want, well, that you send with the page. So going back to Burpsuite, if we look at the post, nope, that's not sharing. Sorry, there we go. So this is the post data, right, that we need to put into the data flag. You can use Burpsuite to find this. You can also just inspect the page and go to network, and it will show you if you look at requests. So this is the data that you need. And then you also have an additional parameter that just didn't pop up full stop, which is the parameters that SQL should test. So you could just leave it off and it'll test it all, or you could say only test email, only test password, whatever you want. In this case, you won't require it. In other challenges, you may. There's also a couple of specifiers for what information it will give you if it manages to do SQL injection. -A, -dump all, -D, -T, and -C, all of which look at the man page, right? My point for this session, in addition to learning about these tools, is basically saying in the beginner CTF or in Pico CTF or in any CTF, if in doubt, look at the documentation, because we're not going to be able to give you every single answer. So this is a bit of a hint of like what you may need to use, but if in doubt, look at the documentation. That's going to be the best way of getting things solved. Or look at Stack Overflow. Your answer is also probably there if you need it. But again, that's the internet and not us. So those are the tools. I'm not going to show you how to use SQLMap because it's sort of all there. And also, if I showed you how to do it on MonBank, it would be done. So for MonBank, your objective this time is to actually dump the database, and more specifically, get the email of John Smith, which it's a challenge on the CTF page. So that's pretty much it in terms of the tools. I will go around and help you actually figure out how to use SQLMap. But because, again, we're trying to get everyone to be super independent, I'm not going to explain it or show it. Again, also because I don't have enough challenges to do that for. So that's it in terms of the content. If you want to have a look at all the challenges, either now or later, obviously, if you stay now, I can help you now. Otherwise, send us a message. And the very final thing that I wanted to add is that post the beginner CTF, we're going to start moving on to some more complex challenges. Next week is probably going to be introduction to pwn, so buffer overflows, stuff like that. I saw a couple of people being like, hang on, no, not more complex. It's fine, we will explain it. It's just becoming a bit more technical. And also, if you want to present on any topic, feel free. Everyone is allowed to present. It doesn't have to just be me or Marcus or anyone else I happen to rope in, or Leo. So if you do want to present, by all means, and it also just tests your knowledge as well, so it does help you. Anyway, thank you, everybody. I think there's still a bit more pizza if anybody wants pizza. But at the same time, if you have any questions, let me know. And please sign up for the beginner CTF. It's really fun. So definitely do that. And there are prizes and there is food. So check Discord and we'll send more information on that throughout the week.